Okay, so today was or I should say tonight was the 1 hour premiere of the Green Lantern the animated series. And what you pretty much get with this one is it starts off with a Frontier Lantern being attacked by two Red Lanterns. Yeah, so your main villains are going to be the Red Lanterns. So you have Razor and a guy who I'll just call him Beach Ball. That's what Hal refers to him as quite often. And they attack and pretty much kill a lantern. So in the first few minutes, you do get to see them kill a Green Lantern. And then immediately goes back to Earth, where essentially it's Hal flying a plane. So Hal is already Green Lantern at this point in time. You know, very little bit of communication between him and Carol, and then he is flying right back into space. And the majority of this takes place in the Frontier, in the Guardian Frontier location. They do show what is the DC New version of the 3,600 sectors. Essentially, they comprise a sphere, so each section is essentially, they did a square. So you have well, I guess it's a pyramid constantly extending out, but then they end that in a giant sphere. Beyond that sphere is where the Guardian Frontier is at, where there are less lanterns. So it's in the area that's not currently being patrolled by the Guardians. And that, of course, is where there's the attack of the Red Lanterns. And, of course, Hal and Kilowog commandeer the Interceptor to fly out to a space that would take 18 months to fly to under the power of a regular Green Lantern ring. And, of course, it has an AI, which is female. Hal Jordan refers to as Aya. So he pretty much names the ship and kind of flirts with it. But it's Hal, the Consummate Ladies Man. They find that other Frontier Lantern is being attacked by the two primary Red Lanterns. They then go to save him. Overall, this being DC's first CGI entire cartoon, it actually looks pretty decent. You know, I like the way that they do for the Green Lantern constructs. They normally have a translucent effect on a nice glowing green, which works pretty well. And for the Red Lantern effects, they have a lot more of kind of like jagged lines going through it. So they did a pretty good job when it comes to the imagination of how they would have their attacks. The odd thing ends up being, they did take a lot of liberties with Red Lanterns. In the comics, currently, 2 of them actually really speak without the use of their rings. In this one, all 3 of them actually have full sets of dialogue. And Atrocitus is flying on a part of the Shard, which was a planet that was destroyed by the Green Lanterns. So they kind of took him away from his initial introduction that was done by Alan Moore. Not bad, and I can see why they would tweak him a little bit just to try to make this, I don't want to say more palatable, as opposed to making him essentially a demon from a prison planet that the Guardians kind of made an error and was entirely destroyed by the Manhunters. That'd be kind of hard to work into a cartoon. That having been said, this really isn't something you could have kids watch, since throughout the thing, 2 Green Lanterns essentially die. One dies right off the bat, and one dies more towards the end. And they do an awful lot of back and forth towards the end of, you know, I did this, I deserve to die for what it is that I have done, from Razor. So it's actually pretty intense in that aspect. I'm not a huge fan of the way Atrocitus looks. They gave him this weird kind of like hair lip thing, so he's always got kind of this and that kind of scarred part of his face. Again, much easier to do than, oh, I don't know, that if you can see it in my background. You know, Atrocitus normally has a much more gruff exterior, and I could see that by actually tweaking him to try to make him look a little more than what you guys, your children, kind of watch. Is this definitely a cartoon geared more towards children? No, unless you're okay with seeing a fairly high level of fantasy violence. You know, is this anywhere near as violent as, say, Clone Wars, where there's an awful lot of death? No, there's a lot less violence than that, but some of the things that they dealt with in this one are actually, I would say, probably a bit too intense for younger children. You know, when the Guardian Lanterns goes back home, he gets to see his daughter. And his daughter's all excited to see him. And then as things progress, it becomes kind of sad. That being said, I'll be honest, it's actually really impressive. They also mentioned heavily a DC Nation thing coming in 2012, where they showed, of course, most of the cast of The Big Bang Theory, and bits and pieces of little shorts. The short they actually did show was kind of a really bad claymation done with annoying children's voices. So you've got a concept that's, you know, the Green Lanterns with the willpower facing the vengeance or the righteous vengeance that you get from the Red Lanterns. And that's done pretty well. And then you have this weird short thrown in towards the end that came off really childish and really juvenile. You know, DC normally does a pretty good job of hitting that, you know, teen, like the kind of the preteen, but primarily hitting people who grew up on the Bruce Timm Batman the Animated Series. So, all in all, for a first 1 hour, a pretty solid start to it.